Thank you very much. Director, I greet. Prof, two profs, I greet. It's quite uncomfortable for me because usually in these occasions, I'm usually the MC. I feel like doing the MC job now, but I have to do something else. Thank you very much for your time. I am as introduced. I'm still a small boy. All those things they talked about me, technically true. Today I'm going to speak to a new generation. I'm going to speak to a generation that is really upset with Nigeria, a generation that a lot of people have made fun of. We look down at them, but they are the leaders. When we say leaders of tomorrow, they've already started leading. And my topic is going to be very simple. I think it's on screen. Activating consulting intelligence of a new generation. Equipping young minds to think, to create, to dominate in a result-driven economy. That's my topic. When we talk about Gen Z, I'd like to open up to a lot of us who don't know which generation you are. So when I call the range, you will know where you are. Can I go ahead? There's a generation called the greatest generation, 1901 to 1927. By God's grace, none of them is here. The next generation is called the silent generation. I don't know why they are called the silent generation. 1926 to 1945. That's the silent generation. Around that period, they have witnessed at least 2 world wars. Maybe that was what made them silent. Then from 1946 to 1964, we have the generation called the baby boomers. I know they are in this room. 1946 to 1964. From 1965 to 1980, Generation X. 1965 to 1980, Generation X. From 1981 to 1996 is the millennial generation. I will call that the last generation that enjoyed Nigeria. From 1997 to 2012, we call them Gen Z. Many of them on that side. But from the year 2013 to 2024, there's a new generation called the Alpha generation. They do not know that they are called the Alpha generation yet. They feel that they are Gen Z. But I'm going to be talking to the Gen Zs in the house. And we're talking about equipping that generation to think. If that is all I'm going to talk about here, that word, to think, I will just drop the mic and go. Because we are in a world today where everything is moving so fast. And those who run the world today are those who think, those who create, and those who dominate. I say this early that people who think are politicians. People who create are politicians. And people who dominate are politicians. No matter how bad you want to look at politicians today, if an average politician at any level, he thinks. They are thinking of what next to do. While we were in 2023, they were thinking 2027. There are some people who haven't thought 2031 because they think. Then they create the environment they like, and then they dominate. My topic today says activating consulting intelligence in a new generation. Look beyond under here, you'll see that Learn to Live Business School is now called a Consulting Intelligence Institute. The rector has decided that somehow what we need going forward in business is not just people who come out with MBAs, people who come out with PGDs or PhDs. They are everyone collecting titles everywhere. I make bold to say, ladies and gentlemen, as we speak today, maybe 10, 15 people per hour are receiving honorary doctorates. There are many people who are in universities today proudly wearing gowns and saying they are collecting PhDs. But we don't have people who are able to think ahead. we are all collecting certificates. But because of what Learn to Live has transformed to be to an institution that thinks about business doctors, the future of Learn to Live is about consulting intelligence. And the rector said something about that. But what is consulting intelligence? The ability to analyze problems, to think strategically. Until I became the dean of School of Communications, I didn't understand what it means to think strategically. If we think strategically, a lot of things we would not be struggling about. If you think strategically and behave strategically, a lot of your prayer points will not be prayer points. It is thinking strategically, communicating solutions and delivering measurable impact. That is what consulting intelligence is. It's about mixing critical thinking, creativity, data awareness, leadership, and solution-driven execution. I'm currently undergoing a certificate under this school. Most of you might know it, SPPG, the School of Policy, Politics, and Governance, is led by Dr. Obi Ezekwensili. 10 months program, very intense. And there's something she says. The mantra of the school is, in God we trust. In God we trust. Everyone else brings data. Did you hear what I said? In God we trust. Everyone else brings data. Which means that we are a data-driven economy. And Gen Zs need to start thinking about holding on to data. Can we get another mic? This mic is not, this mic is a silent generation mic. So, what do we need to do? Let's find out the qualities of Gen Z in relation to innovation and workplace productivity. I'm not saying this is all Gen Zs. I'm saying this is what the Gen Z generation, most of them do in the workplace. If you look at what is on screen next, they are digitally native problem solvers because their generation grew up in the era of smartphones. They are usually digitally native problem solvers. They know how to use cloud computing. If I ask most of us here, what is cloud computing? You would chat GPT. But there are also people who are very advanced to AI. Real Gen Z in the workplace are very strong in entrepreneurial orientation. Most Gen Zs want to have their own business. Most Gen Zs can be working for you and working for somebody else. They can be working for you, working for somebody, and working for themselves. It is in this generation that we see most remote jobs. These are qualities of Gen Z. They prefer freelancing. They prefer starting up big businesses on their own. They are outcome-driven. They are not process-driven. Gen X, process-driven. Millennials, we take time to look at the process. But Gen Z, they want the results. They go for the result. If it's not working, it's not working. That is the generation we have today. They are always interested in personal branding. For Gen X, for millennials, most times we'll do the business and we'll say our result will speak for ourselves, right? That's what we say. But Gen Z say, let me show you what I'm doing. Gen Z will show the results. They will snap selfies even if they're working in a mortuary. Because their personal branding is what is important to them. They are very good in learning very fast. Rapid learning. They know how to reskill. They know new software. All the new softwares that are designed are not designed for millennials. They are not designed for Gen X. They are designed for Gen Z. I remember in a time when I was starting up my first degree, I studied in India, applied information technology. When I finished, sometime in the year 2003, my lecturers then in India said, if you finish this course and you go and work for somebody and they pay you anything less than 500,000, that was 2003, that you have made a mistake with this course. After a while, we thought web design was everything. Sorry, let me try Gen Z mic. So after a while, we were thinking that we were kings in web design. All of a sudden, one day I was born and bred in Lagos, and I was driving along or walking along Ikoyi Victoria Island Bridge. And I was here having a BSc in Applied Information Technology. And I was charging people 500,000, 600,000 to design websites. Somebody wrote with charcoal on the bridge, website design, 40,000. Call this number. And I ran away from IT. Because the tools I thought I had, some of you who know web design, Dreamweaver, all those softwares, HTML, CSS, now everything is on your phone. And these softwares were designed by Gen Z for Gen Zs. So that is another quality you can find about Gen Zs. Now, between Gen Zs and Gen Alpha, there are some other things you can find about them. High innovation velocity. They move from idea to execution very fast than any other generation. They are the ones that show you apps on your phone. Parents, don't be embarrassed. They are the ones that tell you that there is this app on your phone. I remember when we were transiting and some children wanted to obtain from their parents. Obtain means collect money. They will tell you that to install WhatsApp is 20,000. That was then. So the Gen Z now know the software is faster. It is easier. We are here doing Learn to Live. We are here doing School of Communications. There's a time when you needed to attend class physically. But these days, it's 100% online. Even traditional universities are telling you 100% online. These are new innovations. They are collaborating using technology. Gen Zs can stay in Jos, another person stays in Kuala Lumpur, and they are collaborating. This is one of the advantages Gen Zs have. For some Gen Zs, comfort, change always threatens them. But most Gen Zs, if they fail in one thing, they move to another thing. But in Gen X, millennials, if we fail in one thing, we sit down and think, why did we fail? We look at the process. We look at the cause. We look at what we would have done better. Gen Z, this one who failed will start another one. And that is the same thing with Gen Alpha. Another quality you can find in both Gen Z and Gen Alpha, they are data aware. For every software that's online, every social media handle, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, anyone, there's a new part of it where you can see the back end of what you're doing. What do we call that back end? There's a back end. Data insights. Thank you very much. So before, we didn't know how far we were going. You just had followers, but now they tell you where your followers are, what time your followers follow you, what time is best to post, how many of your posts made good insights. These are technologies that Gen Zs are having to their advantage. So whenever a Gen Z comes to a business, he wants to support you, he will tell you how many followers he has. He will tell you how many engagement he has or she has. That is what is their selling point. In the former generations, they will show you the buildings they have. They will show you how many trainings they've done. But a Gen Z can come in here with slippers and everything and tell you, I have 7 million followers, I have so and so. That's what is their selling point. Gen Zs have little fear for experimentation. That is why you can see a female on social media. She's selling wig, she's selling yogurt, she's selling everything. We do everything. Gen Z, I'm not Gen Z. We do everything. I want to associate with Gen Z for now. So that if money drops, I drop. If not, I move to my generation. Amen? So these are qualities of the new generation, the Gen Zs. So why is this necessary? Why do we need to know all these things? The next slide, please. I want everyone to see it. Because industries are speedily evolving. Dr. Nkem just said it just now. Elon Musk was thinking that all was well until somebody is drawing hydrogen for power, for cars. And while Elon Musk is doing that, Nigerians are aiming to buy electric cars. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is wondering what is happening. So Africa is still very backward in that. Technology is evolving. Industries are evolving. Competition is intensifying. I used to tell my students in School of Communication Dangote was never an outspoken person. Dangote never used to talk in public. Dangote would just show up at one international conference, say one or two things, and go away. But as soon as Dangote entered petroleum, Dangote has been talking more than Reno Mokri. Why? Because he's entering into an industry that is very competitive. Very competitive. The banks used to be gods. How many of you all remember, for those of you who are bankers, to go to a bank means that you prepared yourself that you were going to a bank. You prepared yourself that you're going to the banking line. Tellers used to be gods that time. You have to smile before you meet them. But people like OPay and MoneyPoint came and changed everything. Today on your phone, you can do almost anything without entering a bank. I dare any of you to enter a bank and count 15 people in the banking hall. Because industries are changing. Competition is intensifying. Young minds must be prepared and equipped not just to participate in the future economy, but to shape and dominate it. To shape and dominate it. This means they must adopt a solutions mentality, not just a team members mentality. Ladies and gentlemen, we need to move Gen Z from just thinking of being staff to thinking of being staff members to start thinking of being productive innovators and people who create. But it's very scary in many businesses, and I understand that you don't want to give too much powers to your staff because you feel to abuse it. But in some cases, one of the reasons why most people have high blood pressure is because you're always in the business. You don't give them powers to innovate. You don't give them powers to think. You don't give them powers to dominate. This will require that we move from our current mode of learning, which is learning to pass exams. I hope there was nobody in this set that was cramming to pass exams. Are you one of them, sir? We have gone to our traditional institutions where we learn to pass exams. We are just cramming. Let's just let my people go. But we need to move from learning to pass exams. Not mainly to understand. We need to start looking at learning through experiences, which we call experiential learning. We need to start using case studies in teaching. I know I'm talking too far because our university system, I don't know when they'll get there. But in Learn to Live and School of Communications, one thing we know is we use a lot of case studies. All those days when we were growing up and we read books like Ababio, for those of you who did sciences, the Ababio in 1964 give the same example as Ababio in 2025. They will still tell you the leaf, use this example. Nothing changes, nothing is innovative. You can't think for yourselves. So the Gen Zs need to start learning with simulations. They need to start using real-world examples. They need to have mentorship. They need to infuse technology, real-world problem solving. Obi is a boy has passed. Obi is now a grandfather. So we need to start changing the way we think by changing the way we teach. Gen Zs need to look at problems from the point of what is the problem in our community and how do we fix it. Next slide. What world economic reality is waiting for the new generation? What is the new world economy? What is it waiting for in Gen Z? A world that is immersed in deepening and rapid global competition. The world is in a tug of war. I'm an MC, so I know what this means. A world that has embraced digital transformation and will soon be ruled by digital governance. Ladies and gentlemen, in the United Nations today, they are not just discussing border. They are discussing digital interactions. There is now something we call digital diplomacy. The world is moving far and we are still behind. The world that Gen Z will meet is a world where the young people are expected to be strategic performers and not passive learners. They need to move from just being learners to being performers. It is not, these days you go on LinkedIn and you see people say, I just achieved this, I just achieved this. We are looking for people who are moving from I just achieved this to this is what I was able to produce. Are we together? We are meeting a world where global players invest in unconventional strategic thinking. Who knew that Harvard University, Oxford, Yale will begin to put on their courses online? Whoever knew? Whoever knew? That business is, it is now said that Google may pay you to think. That is what the new world players are doing. A world where thinkers are more valued than the conventional doers. That is the world we are going into. So what mindsets will the future employer be looking for from the next generation? Look at it on screen as I live here. A thinker, consultant mentality. A creator, innovator, builder mentality. That is what the new employers are going to be looking for. People who are system thinkers, people who think outside the box. You might say to yourself, it's not going to happen in Nigeria, but because you jackpot a lot, you're going to see this abroad. And for those who jackpot and jackpada, they will bring that mindset back to Nigeria, and the way we do things will change. So without wasting much of your time, there are so many things you can unbundle from here. And the slides are there, but I'm not going to go further. But there are so many benefits that accrue. But ladies and gentlemen, I'll end with this. We need to change the way Gen Z think. And we need to change the environment they are in. Otherwise, we will still be learners instead of performers. Gen Z should move from just being good on social media to being innovators. Many of them are innovators. Many of them are the ones that are receiving funding for startups. They are receiving a lot. We need to help them move forward. It's not just a few people that receive angel investors. We need to start getting more of our Gen Z people thinking outside the box. We need to get them thinking of how to help Nigeria, because the problems of Nigeria is not in the hands of politicians. We need to get people who are able to think and outthink the ones that are doing, because the future belongs to Gen Zs. With those few points of mine, I hope I've been able to confuse you rather than convince you. Thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen.